and it is variables. Sorry, that's messy. And expressions. Bear with me as I get back into this writing business on the iPad. It doesn't always turn out beautifully, but I'll try to write neatly. Oh, we're being slow too. Everyone's on their iPads today. It's going to be a little slow. Let me know if it's super delayed, and I'll just turn it on up here, okay? We'll take it off AirPlay. Okay, so first thing, and just know that a lot of this first stuff is probably review for you, and that's totally fine. This is a good boost for your grade to start off with a bunch of review stuff. It's a good way to just get your confidence built up. So if this is super easy to you, great. Just enjoy the ease of it for now, okay? First thing we're going to talk about is a quantity. Keeping up so far, that's good. And that's, a quantity is just anything that can be measured or counted, okay? So it can be measured or counted. So a number of things, right? The quantity of people in this room would be 12, right? It can be counted. You can count how many people. So that is the quantity. Can anyone tell me what's a variable? Okay, we're going to turn it off. We're going to just do it on. Gotta love technology, right? You're just going to see my hand now instead, but that's okay. Anyone tell me what a variable is? A letter, right? It is a symbol, usually a letter, that represents the value of some quantity, okay? So usually we use letters to represent a quantity. Okay, so often, most common variable used, what would you say? X is a very common variable, okay? So with this, we are going to talk about two different types of expressions, okay? There are what are called algebraic expressions. That's an I, sorry. Algebraic expressions, and there are numerical expressions. Okay, and we're going to talk about the difference between the two. So an algebraic expression, okay, is going to be a math phrase that has variables. Okay, so algebraic has a variable or variables. God bless you. Numerical expressions. What do you see in numerical? What do you think of when you hear numerical? Numbers, right? So numerical expressions will have no variables because it will be all numbers. So I'm going to give you a few examples, and we're going to say where they should go. Okay? So I'm going to put them right in the middle here. And we're just going to put an arrow to which side it should go on. So if I gave you x plus 4, which one, is that algebraic or numerical? That's an algebraic expression, so that would go under here. If I gave you j plus t, algebraic or numerical? That's algebraic again, right? Because we have variables. Okay. What if I did 26 plus 4? That's numerical. There's no variable there. That's just a numerical expression. How about 13 minus 2 times 5 plus 1? Numerical. Again, no variable there, right? That is a numerical expression. Okay, so you get the idea, numerical versus algebraic. Questions on that? Okay. God bless you. Okay, then we are going to move on to our second example. Actually, it's our first example. And the format that I usually do is I'll just write example number whatever. Sometimes they follow the flow of the book, sometimes not exactly, but they more or less follow the flow of the book. With this one, I'm going to give you numbers, words, variables, and we're going to come up with what the algebraic or numerical expression should be. But a few things for you to note before we do that. When you see more than, can you tell me which operation you would do? Not subtraction. If I said 5 more than, you're adding, right? So more than is addition. That's an arrow. Sorry. What if we said less than? That one's subtraction. God bless you. How about if I said twice? Something is twice another number. Multiplication. You're multiplying by what? By 2. So if we said twice, you're multiplying by 2. If I say quotient, what is quotient? Quotient is division. Okay, and then product. If I said the product of 2 numbers, what are you doing to those 2 numbers? Not adding. Yeah. No? Product. You're multiplying. Product is multiplication. Okay, so those are some of the key phrases to look for. One thing to note is these top 2 are different than the others, okay? When I give you a phrase, pretty much you're going to put it in order of how you see it. But when you see more than and when you see less than, you actually flip what is there. So if I said, for instance, 54 more than a number n. Okay, so 54 more than a number n would actually be what? If we have to flip our stuff. Yes. Okay, so right now it looks like 54 plus n, but that than, more than, less than, says flip them around. Now with addition, it doesn't really matter because you can add in any order and it would be fine, but with less than, it makes a big difference, right? Because if you subtract this way versus if you subtract that way, you're going to get different answers, okay? So just make sure when you see the more than or the less than, you would write it n plus 54, okay, for more than. How about if I said, what is 36 less than x? How would you write that one? Yeah, I did x on this one, but x minus 36, right? So less than and more than, flip them around, okay, from the order you see them in. If I said, we're going to go to a new page. Can I move on right now? Are you good here? All right, so let's say I said, write the algebraic expression for 5 times a number n. How would you write that? 5 times a number n. But you don't have to flip it now, right? Because it's not more than or less than. So we're going to keep it in the order it's in. When you're multiplying with a variable, you don't have to put the times in there, right? So 5 times a number n is just 5n. When you set to a variable and a number next to each other, that means multiplication. Okay, so we want the simplest way we can write it. This would be the simplest way. How about if I said the quotient of a number n and 7. Okay, so what is quotient telling me? Division, okay? And you put them in the order you see them. So is this n divided by 7 or 7 divided by n? Which one came first in our sentence? The n, right? So unless it's more than or less than, don't flip them. You leave them in the same order. So quotient of a number, n, so n's going to come first, and 7, so it's n divided by 7. Or do you know another way to write n divided by 7? Another way to do division. Not 7 divided by n, because that would be a different value, right? The other way you could do it is with the division bar. Okay, so n divided by 7, like that, or n divided by 7, like that. Okay, the quotient of n and 7. How are we doing so far? Okay, we got 10 minutes. We're going to power through this. All right, second we're going to do is now we're going to throw in multiple steps. Okay? What?
Oh, we're busy working through you.
Did you not get something?
No, I got something. I'm trying to give it.
Oh, go for it. So I'm going to give you multiple steps in this one. You really got to pay attention to the wording again. If I say 5 more than twice a number x, okay, 5 more than twice a number x. So what's the more than telling us to do? Flip them, right? So what's here is going to go to this side, and what's here on the other side is going to go to the left, okay? So twice a number x, how do you write that? 2x, right? So twice a number x is 2x. What is more than? Adding, so plus, and then the 5 goes at the end. So 2x plus 5 is 5 more than twice a number x. Does that make sense? So more than flips them, less than would flip them also, and then you put in what you have from there. How about this one? If I said 6 less than the quotient of 8 and a number x. Okay, so look at what you have. We have the less than. What's the less than doing here? Subtracting and flipping them, right? So this is going to go at the back end. The rest of it, all of this, needs to go on the front end, okay? And it's less than, so we're subtracting in the middle, okay? So 6 less than that number, that means you're doing minus 6 at the end. What's going to come at the beginning? The quotient of 8 and a number x. What's quotient? Division. Which one goes, it's what divided by what? It's 8 divided by x. So I would write that 8 divided by x minus 6. Technically, you could write it also 8 divided by x minus 6. That's just not the most common way to write it. It's not wrong. This is just more common. This is how you'll see it from me more often. It's how you'll see it in the book more often. Okay? Questions on that? Still going. I have one more of those. All right. Okay, last one of those, and then I have one more little example. If I said the product of, where'd I go? 3 and the sum of x and 11. Okay, so think about what's happening here. This is saying product. What's product? Multiplication. What's sum? Addition. Okay, so it's the product of 3 and something, and that something is the sum of x and 11. So the product of 3 and something, and there's no less than or greater than, so we don't need to switch our order, right? Or less than or more than. So 3 times something, but you're multiplying that 3 by this whole thing, x and 11's sum. So what you have to do here is you have to put parentheses in, okay? Because it's 3 times, remember, parentheses always means multiplication, okay? What's going to go inside the parentheses? X plus 11. So 3 times x plus 11. And that would be your answer. Okay? Questions on that? Okay, the last thing is just flipping it then. So can you tell me, and we're not going to write this down. Don't worry about writing it. Just tell me, okay? You're doing words here. If I did, oh, that's terrible. If I gave you that, can you tell me in words how you could say that? 3 times x would be one way. What's another way you could say it? It's a P word, the product of 3 and x. Okay, so it's just putting it into words, what you have in numbers and letters. Okay, what if I said this one? How would you say that in words? The quotient of x and 7 would be one way. What's another way you could say it? X divided by 7. Okay, so just putting it into words. Any questions on that? Okay.